Hi everybody, my name's Rachel Price. I'm really sorry I can't be there with you today. My school's got its first day of its Aero review today. So ordinarily I would have been there for the whole session. I work for ADSA as the education officer, so I was really disappointed to miss out on sharing the day with you. So usually I round out day one by giving a little presentation about narrative assessment. So as I can't be there, here's a little video for you, just so you can leave today, fully ready for next week. So narrative assessment is also known as learning stories. If you've had a child who's gone to kindergarten, they're very much like the kind of write-ups you would get in a kindergarten portfolio. They are incredibly positive, and as a teacher I love them. I love writing them. I love exploring my students' learning using them. The main thing for me is with narrative assessment you get really drawn into moments of learning. As you analyse them through a narrative assessment framework, you not only celebrate the moment, and let's face it, some of them are so fleeting you really are overjoyed in the moment, you quickly forget about what you've seen. But through narrative you get to really celebrate them, and then you get to use it to consciously plan out next steps for learning. So you get to capitalise on and extend the power of the learning. There's two main sources of information on narrative assessment. One is the website, Through Different Eyes, and then there's the narrative assessment booklet that you've got in your pack. Both of them are really great sources of information, but don't let them freak you out. It's actually not as much work as it looks. So here, this is a picture of one of the exemplars from the website, Tom Can Write. So I just went to the website and clicked on the PDF download, and it's 7 pages of a PDF document, and to look at, you just think that's just ridiculous, that's far too much work. But when you start to look at it more closely, there's a few things that you really need to notice. The first thing is on this this picture you can see the wheel at the top. Now my colleague will explain that to you next week in full, so that makes a lot of sense, and it's actually a really simple thing, simply for tracking and keeping track of which curriculum areas you've done assessment for your student in. At the bottom there you can see the student background section. Now that section is literally only included on the website exemplars so that us, the readers, get a sense of who the student is that's being written about. So when I write narrative assessments for my students, I never write in a section called student background. So those are really just there to give context. When you explore a little bit further, you'll also see that that 7-page PDF document is actually a series of about 4 narrative assessments done over a period of time about Tom's writing development. So on the other side of the page here, this here is actually one narrative assessment. So when you start to see it like that, it doesn't look like it's quite as much work. The framework for narrative we'll go through with you next week, but it's just at the moment to reassure you that we're not trying to sell you something that's going to make your paper load work even more overwhelming than it currently is. So this is some reasons why teachers just love narrative assessment so much. The comment that I really relate to is this one in here. I have never felt as proud of my recording and paperwork ever. I'm not a big fan of paperwork. I do not like having to push assessment and do all of those things. I mean, I get them, I know why I have to do them, I know that they inform my planning, and I don't mind doing them when they feel like they have a purpose. And for me, narrative assessment has the most incredible value because it's something that the students like to read and they get something from it, as well as it being just such an amazing process for getting me to reflect on what's happened and to be able to use those, those moments to be really empowering, planning really positively for the future. You'll all be really immersed in rhetoric around student-centred learning stories. Narrative assessment is truly student-centred. And this is the other thing that I think's one of the great powers of them. Often our learners with special needs, they're learning somewhat devalued, or because it's so different from everybody else's, what is truly an amazing step in learning for them can kind of be overlooked. And I love this comment. I believe learning stories really have the potential to alter perceptions about disabled students. Stories show them to be successful achievers. So our hope is that you guys will also fall in love with narrative assessment. So we want you to do for next week. We would really like it if you would watch out for a moment that you can write a narrative assessment about when you're with us next week. So this little page on the side here is it's straight out of the booklet that you've got, and it's some practical tips that teachers who write narratives have offered. And one that is really, really, really important is this one. They're just the stories you tell your colleagues. This is what I always say to the teacher aides when I'm teaching them how to do these things. They are the wow moments. They're the things that get you really excited. They're the things you can't wait to tell somebody over coffee in the staff room. The moment that you see a student do something for the first time, or something that you've practiced, they suddenly get it, or it might be spontaneous, something that they've done. So if you can do what it says here, jot down a keyword or a dialogue or take a photo to help you remember it, and bring that along next time. That would be fantastic. So the plan for next session is that Tracy Elder, who was one of the teachers who helped put narrative assessment together, working with the team from the ministry quite a few years ago now, she's going to come in. She's going to talk you through how to write a narrative, and we're going to give some time for you to write one. And she'll also talk to you about how they match up with IEPs and IEP goals, and how they've made it work in their school. How they've organised the use of the point one release and those sorts of things. So it's really exciting. I hope that next time around you are able to join in the process, and hopefully some of you will be willing to share your wow moments as well. So apologies again for having to just leave you a video and not being there in person, but I will definitely be there to meet you all next week. I hope you've really enjoyed the day, and we'll see you next Monday. Bye.